Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and to another instalment in the Sydney Railroad build. If you're watching last time, you will have seen me get the wiring fully caught up with the track laying. In this week's instalment, I'm going to take care of the track and bridges on the lower level of the peninsula. I'm going to pretty much skip over the bridge building. I plan to go into more detail in those in another instalment. So this week's video is mainly concerned with the track laying. So anyway, without further ado, let's just head out to the workshop and lay that track. Before we can start on track laying in this area, there are some decisions to make. You may recall when I built the bench book for the area, I mentioned that this riverbed was just tacked in place with 4 screws because I might want to raise it. And I think I do need to. Here is a rough mock-up showing bridge piers on that plywood base underneath the bridge, and we can see there's about 6 inches of gap to make up. Now I don't necessarily want to raise it all that height. I'm thinking I should raise this deck 3 inches, put those piers on blocks, and then the river banks will take up the rest of the slope. I don't want to get too high because I want to put some rapids and waterfalls through this area, and I might still end up cutting out the front of it when I come to do the scenery in this area. So for now I'm going to go with 3-inch spacers. Something else that I've been deciding on with the client is whether to convert this bridge to a ballasted deck. I've got a piece of concrete tie track and a double stack with 2 high cube containers just to check how much clearance we have here, and there's about ½ inch. I figure I need to use about half of that for the trough for the ballast deck, so there is indeed enough clearance. I thought there would be, but I had to make sure before I was committed. So the first thing to do is build a styrene ballast trough underneath that track. I'm probably going to use 60 thou styrene. I don't really like the ones that come in the Walthers kits, but that can be done this evening when I go inside. I want to get as much track laid today as I can. So I'm going to turn the camera off and get to work, and I'll see you again soon. Well, there it is, raised up 3 inches, and I think that's now too high. So I'm going to cut the blocks down either to 1.5 or 2 inches, and then see what that looks like. Well, after cutting the blocks down to 2 inches and trying it again, I decided to cut them down to 1.5 inches, and that's what I have now. I'm now going to permanently install that riverbed in place at that height, and then jack up the piers with blocks accordingly. And with the 1.5 inch blocks, it's exactly 2 inches higher, so it makes it easy to stack foam in the back. Just one more thickness in the back than under the riverbed. And if I decide I want less clearance under the bridge, I can always build it up with foam later. So let me install those quickly, and I'll be right back. Well, I have gradually been working my way through the scene throughout the day, around the end curve, remembering to only glue the inside of the track on the curves to allow for super elevation later, all the way through this long, lazy reverse curve, almost to the trestle. I couldn't have got much further today anyway, because I haven't built the trestle yet. I could have got 2 more pieces in. I'm not going to rush and do that now. I'm going to go in and get some food, and I will come back out again tomorrow. Yesterday I got more than half of this concrete track in through the mountain scene, as far as here. This morning when I was looking at the trestle for here, I realized that it's exactly the same length as the one that I built for the Keweenaw and Scenic Valley. So it's about 1 yard long. It's actually 35.75 inches long. So I can leave a spot for that without having to build the trestle first. Anyway, since I have no spare track, I wanted to make sure that I made the best use of the pieces. So rather than continue from here, I jumped to the other end and I put this curve in through the state line tunnels. I've got the first 4 pieces from this end test fitted with the feeders already in place. You can see them dangling down underneath. Next step is to get the glue out and glue these 4 pieces in place. That will just leave 8 feet to do. So let me get on with this and I'll be right back. Well, here are the last 3 pieces of track installed. 2 at this end and 1 at the other end of the trestle.
The black marks here and here are the approximate endpoints of the trestle. So I've cut the track back 3 inches at each end. That gives me plenty of room to install feeders. It's more than 1 yard, so it'll be 2 lengths, so I need feeders at both ends. But I don't need to build the trestle just yet. I can leave it like that for now. Anyway, just as I was putting the last of the weights in place, Zeus started barking, let me know that the mail carrier had arrived with the rest of the RC cables that I need for the control panels. So I'm just going to leave this as it is, and I'm going to go back to working on control panels. So stay tuned, and I will be right back. It seems like forever ago when I started working on the 2 bridges over this canyon, but I've been working on a lot of things concurrently. I can't finish the trestle yet because I'm still waiting for parts which were out of stock at Microengineering. But I did build the high bridge in front of it, and I guess it's a little ironic that I fully laid the rear main except for the bridge to start with, and now on the front main the bridge is the only thing that's done. I just started putting in the foam roadbed to connect up this end, and there's these 2 partial turnouts here. If you recall from the design video, we wanted to make sure that it was obviously a divided double track main line. We didn't want anyone to think that we'd cheated and run the single track main line through the same scene twice. So the goal with this is to visually tie the 2 mains together. So we put in the junction with an abandoned connection. And there it is, disappearing off the front of the benchwork. By leaving the remnants of the turnouts, it's obvious what the track used to look like. And we're arguing that the railroad company partially dismantled them, probably at the time where they relaid the old main with concrete ties. Anyway, these were really quick to build. I used the same fast tracks jigs that I would have done for complete turnouts, but just laid plain track through the straight route and put portions of the diverging route in, just as a reminder of what the track used to look like. And we're going to argue that the railroad company intends to come back and finish the job when they relay the front track. But there was no point in disrupting traffic any longer than necessary the first time they came through this area. In the finished scene, in order to further the story, there's also going to be a signal gantry at this end, with the heads having been removed. We figure that the railroad company used them elsewhere, but the gantry may as well stay in place until they have a use for it. Anyway, I guess that's enough explanation of this scene, enough waffling, so I'm going to get back to work and lay some track through this area now. Stay tuned, and I'll be right back. Well, there is that piece of track laid. All the feeders in, glued down. I'm just going to leave that as it is till tomorrow because it's just about the end of the day. So I'm going to go in and feed Zeus, and I will come back out tomorrow. Stay tuned, and I will be right back. The first thing I did this morning was to remove all the weights from the track that I laid yesterday across the bridge. And then I have prepped the next 5 lengths of flex track, crossing the next 2 section joints, the next 2 benchwork joints, and all the way to the electrical gap. So this is as far as the purple feeders go. I've got to remember to change to green feeders the other side of that gap. Next thing to do is to turn all that track over, put the glue on, and then install it properly. So let me do that quickly, and I will be right back. Well, those 5 lengths of track have now been installed properly and weighted down and approved by Zeus. He's just finished inspecting them. Anyway, I misspoke earlier. I said I needed green feeder wires for the next section. I don't. The green was on the rear track. It's pink feeder wires that I need. Good job I checked. Anyway, before I can lay much more track, I need to cut some more foam rubber roadbed because I'm completely out of it. So let me go away, cut the roadbed, prep some more track, and I will continue where I left off. Stay tuned, and I will be right back. I have now connected up all the feeder wires all the way along here, about 15 feet or so, all the way back to the bridge, being careful not to derail the Mountain Dew train. I did the other end this morning, So the wiring is now caught up with the track laying on this section, and that's what I'm going to do this morning. I'm going to go in now, get some lunch, and I'll see you again this afternoon. Stay tuned. Here are the top girders for the curved trestle at the end of the peninsula, positioned approximately where they go. The main reason for doing this test is that I want to see how much I have to cut off the ends of the inside span girders. That's the three 50-footers. The other thing that's just come to light is that I underestimated the length of it. I must have miscalculated it somehow, because that's about where that end can go, allowing enough space for the abutment. And we can see this one is over the top of the riser. So I'm going to have to move that riser a couple of inches. Anyway, the next thing I have to do is get the ends cut off in the right places and glue these top sections together. And once the top is done, I can just build the trestle downwards onto a base. Well, here is the next step in getting this trestle worked out. What I've done here is carefully bent a length of microengineering bridge track to the right shape for the trestle. It starts at about 54 inches at this end and then gradually sharpens to about 38 inches at the other end. So the whole trestle is on a spiral. It's not quite perfect, but I think it's as perfect as I can get it. There's no obvious kinks. So now I'm just going to get a Sharpie and mark where the trestle needs to start and end, and then I can take it into the basement and work on trimming the three 50-foot spans. The 30-foot spans on the top of the towers stay parallel because that way they fit better on the tower supports. It's only the 50-foot spans that get tapered ends. And now I can use this as a template and get each one cut right, because all four cuts are likely to be at different angles. Anyway, I'm going to take it all inside now, work in my basement where all my plastic kit tools are. So stay tuned and I'll see you again later. It's been a while since I made any video clips because I needed to complete the trestle and the small bridge a few feet further on. But I got that done yesterday. This morning they are properly installed. The track is glued down. I put a strip of 60 by 80 styrene around the outer edge of the girders to arrange for the super elevation because they're both on a curve. And I've now continued the track from where the soda cans start most of the way around this end curve. Of course, it's not a uniform curve. If you recall from the plans, this is a 40-inch radius around this corner, and then there's a very broad curve at the end for a few feet, and then it sharpens to the minimum 36-inch radius just before the end of the trestle, and then opens out again into a much larger curve before heading for the other bridge. Anyway, also yesterday I got the 3-span through plate girder assembled. I just painted that this morning. Well, it's just the base slate grey. I haven't started weathering it yet. I built the 2 piers yesterday as well, but I am out of abutments. I thought I had enough, but both packs that I have left are double track. So rather than spending the time to cut one of those, I just ordered another one. The extra shipping charge is a lot less than the time to modify double track. The track that is positioned without weights at both ends of this bridge has just been curved to shape, but not yet installed. I wanted to get the bridge out here so I can work out exactly where I end the track. Also have to figure out exactly where the bridge is going to go. I think it wants to be about there because the river should come through at a bit of an angle, and I think that'll be about right. Anyway, let me put the camera down and get back to work, and I'll see you again soon. Well, that is all the track laid through the front main, except for this one bridge site. As I mentioned earlier, I can't finish the bridge just yet, so I'll just have to leave this area unfinished and come back to it when I can. There's always plenty more I can get on with in the meantime. I've also already put all the feeders wires in, so this track is fully wired up. I can't test it yet because I've still got the weights on the track, and that will register a dead short. Anyway, I'm going to go in and get some lunch, and then I've got to decide what to get on with this afternoon.
Well, that's all for this week. Hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful or interesting or both, and I hope to see you back here next week. Not quite sure what next week's installment's going to be, but I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun. So in the meantime, thanks for watching, and bye for now.